So welcome back to Fair for Friday. For this case, we are going back to Tennessee. This case is definitely a real interesting one, in my opinion at least, because we have another cult. This cult is not, as you can imagine, it's not as well known. But apparently there's a lot of people who were a member of this religious group that has since speaking out since the founder pretty much has passed. I'm gonna give what is publicly known about our little diet cult. That's what it's called. And so sources down below as always. Let me know if you were in the group, you know anybody in the group, you have any books by said leader, because apparently like the leader pushed out some books about trying to push our cause. Basically, I'm gonna give what's known, quit my rambling, and let's get started. So we gotta start off with Gwen. Gwen was born February 19th, 1955 in Memphis, Tennessee. Her dad was said to have been a pastor. As you can imagine, Tennessee, that's the Bible Belt, we in the South. So she's going to church, and specifically she's going to the Church of Christ. And apparently the Church of Christ, like, women basically can't, like, teach worship. So, you know, they're kind of old-fashioned. You know, men do the worship, women stay in a women's place. Well, apparently also in this group, there's no music during worship. Even when you're singing, there's, like, no music. Not because we ain't got the budget for it. Basically, you gotta sing a cappella if you're gonna be singing in this church. Then Gwen would eventually go to college and get an undergraduate degree in dieting, and basically a master's degree in food nutrition from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Then she proceeds to work at Memphis State University and the Tennessee Department of Health. So in 1978, doesn't specify when she meets David, but she winds up meeting this man by the name of David SHAMblin. So now she's Gwen SHAMblin. And then they wind up having two kids together, Michael and Elizabeth. In 1986, she starts this workshop class called Weigh Down. So basically trying to, like, lose weight. So it's spelled like, you know, a W-E-I-G-H. But also could be, sounds like weigh, like W-A-Y. And so basically, like, you pray whenever you feel tempted to eat. You're not constantly eating in order to lose weight. And you only actually eat whenever you feel like you are starving. In 1992, apparently this program surprisingly actually kicked off. In 1997, it said that she wrote a book about the programs concerning how well she was doing. She would go on a book tour with the book that she had written and made at least $5 million that we know of. And so then apparently she would go on the Larry King and Tyra Banks show, which back then those were like pretty big deals to get on. So that's how you know she had made it big at that point. And then in 1999, she proceeds to start her own church. So some of the rules regarding the church that she had, women weren't allowed to disobey their husbands no matter what. So if their husbands are wrong, I gotta listen to the man, because now I'm the wife. I married this man for a reason. You gotta stay in the marriage even if he's cheating. And I assume the same if he's being like abusive. Those same rules still applied. The husbands are supposed to report any disobedience that the wives were doing in the marriage. Like, instead of just talking about it like adults, because, you know, we're married. They gotta just stay between us. Like, no, we gotta go to the church and have a mandatory meeting about it. The part that happens next, this is why I chose Gwen's group for this case, because obviously somebody has to die, because this is a Fatal Female channel. There was a family by the last name is Smiths that apparently has some sons. One of them was named Joseph. He was born in February 1995, so he's 8 at the time of his passing. He had a younger brother who was like 17 months old named Malik, that the media for some reason doesn't talk about. They only really talk about Joseph. Malik's death was put down as SIDS, because I couldn't find any other reason. But it's believed that he did die of abuse. Joseph, who's named after his father, is spelled differently, but it's pronounced the same, if that makes sense. So Joseph, the son, the 8-year-old, he was apparently beaten to death as punishment on October 9th, 2003. And it said that they basically put him in a wooden box and left him in there for hours as punishment to start off. And so apparently Father Joseph, you know, Joseph's father, was like, my son basically needs constant punishment because he's a soldier of the devil and he's over carving death threats into walls. Was never confirmed, but that's what he's saying was going on. And so then apparently Joseph passed out during a prayer session they had in the kitchen. Again, whether or not that was confirmed, we don't know. But it said that he was getting starved, so he may have passed out simply from being starved. But again, we don't know. This happened way back in 2003. There's not a lot of media coverage specifically on Joseph's death, sadly. It would later come out that there were multiple people in the church who saw, like, Joseph basically getting mistreated, apparently including a past babysitter, because there was like a documentary specifically about Joseph's case. They would come out and say that Gwen would show the parents how to discipline kids, including like beat them with like these little glue sticks so that way it doesn't show bruises. So then for whatever reason, I don't know whether they took a plea deal or what, they were not allowed to mention Malik's death, because if you mention Malik's death, it's gonna, like, the jury's gonna have bias, because, like, oh, well, you already had one kid die, so who's to say you're responsible for, like, Joseph's death too? And so the oldest child didn't specify how old he is, but apparently he did during a testimony, and almost caused a mistrial. They were still able to have the trial. The defense lawyers were actually hired by Gwen's group, because they were defending the Smiths, because remember, they're members of the group. So Gwen's pretty much defending them. There's a whole website basically declaring their innocence even 20 years later. It's still up to this day. And basically they would try to blame Joseph's death on eczema. Basically saying, he scratched it and that's what killed him, not us abusing him. Luckily, the jury was not saying that bullshit. And Joseph and Sonia, who is, I guess, Joseph Jr.'s mother, they both were sentenced to life. And they still are in there to this day. So then, of course, it came out that, like I said, they were members of the group. So then Gwen would come out and say, oh, I never supported them abusing this poor kid. Even though apparently a recording would come out between Sonia and Gwen that she says was altered. It was faked. So I guess like a deep fake voice version, essentially. Even though it's 2003 and most people wouldn't, if that's even possible, most people wouldn't even know how to do that. Right? So basically said, oh, I left Joseph in a room by himself with nothing but a Bible for 3 days. And apparently Gwen in the audio tape apparently is like congratulating her. But she claims that that audio was faked. It was like altered with. It was messed with. So then, of course, police obviously they're going to do an investigation on the church after the death of little old Joseph. But no other arrests other than the parents were ever made. There will be a point where apparently Gwen would fire people who did not attend, who worked for her. Because apparently, like I said, she had a business. But apparently she claimed that, oh, if you work for me business-wise, you also have to be a member of the church. Even though, obviously, there's people who have different religions. I don't believe in the religion that you have, even though they will work for her. So then, she would fire them. Apparently, that's... Obviously, over here in the States, we have religious freedom. So apparently, that's religious discrimination. So they would sue, and she would have to pay an undisclosed settlement out of court to all the people that she fired because, you're not joining my little cult. So then in 2018, after like 40 years of marriage, she winds up divorcing David, even though she literally told her group, oh, y'all can't divorce. But I guess because I'm the leader, that I'm an exception. She winds up marrying this actor who apparently his name was William Joseph Lara. And this was like less than 60 days after the divorce was finalized. Because obviously you gotta wait for a divorce to be finalized before you get married to somebody else. Otherwise not considered valid. Not even 2 months after divorcing one dude you've been married to for 40 years, we remarrying just like that. And so then Joseph, okay, so his legal first name is William, but all sources like calling him Joseph. So basically Joe was an actor. He played Tarzan. That's pretty much what he's well known for. He's not like he wasn't a well-known actor, but that's what he's best known for, is playing like Tarzan in a movie and a TV show. So then before he married Gwen, apparently he was married to a woman by the name of Nastasha. And Nastasha apparently was Miss Yugoslavia back in 1991. They had a daughter together. They wound up moving to Nashville so he could pursue his music career, because apparently he was never really like a well-known actor. He's mostly known for like his Tarzan roles back in like the 80s. So he was trying to pursue music. Instead, he would wind up filing a claim that Natasha had basically violated their 4-year-old daughter, which these claims later come out to be untrue. But just thought that was interesting to mention. And so then, basically, one day, Gwen would apparently invite like cameras basically to come out to do like a reality show about the church that she had founded, and it was rejected. So instead they decided to start a YouTube channel because, I guess they thought it can't be that hard. And apparently this channel is still up to this day. So then on May 29th, 2021, Gwen, Joe, and apparently 5 other church leaders would get into the small plane. Joe apparently is driving said plane because apparently he had a commercial license to be able to fly planes. And they're flying to a Trump rally in Florida. However, unfortunately, apparently they crash while still in Tennessee, and it winds up killing everybody on board. So Gwen, Joe, Elizabeth's husband, Brandon, because remember, Elizabeth's Gwen's daughter. So basically, her son-in-law. And then the other 4 were Jennifer and David Martin, and then Jessica and Jonathan Walters. And apparently they were like some pretty big members of the group. Obviously, with Gwen, pretty much the founder of the church, dead, you would think like the church would stop. But apparently the church is still going to this day. In Gwen's will, she left nothing to the church, even though she said she would leave. She left everything to Elizabeth and Michael. And apparently, David, the first husband, he died in May of 2023 at like 68. And then it seems in recent news, like within the past month, it seems that the son, Michael, has apparently left the group and is apparently speaking out about his experience.